Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. In this week's video, we are going to dig into a little bit of sound design on the Syntakt, and some of the sounds we're going to make today sound like this. So let's get into it. So I've just loaded the default patch that comes on there. And you can hear a collection of different sounds. And I'm just going to go through a couple of selected engines and see what sounds we can get out of them. Now I will say that the majority of the sounds that we get out of the Syntakt when it comes to the synthesis sort of world are a little bit basic. Obviously you don't have all of the options, but if you dig into it you can get some really good quality sounds to get ideas going, and that's what I see this box as. You can either use it to perform with as like an addition, or you're using it to generate ideas to sort of get something going, to then take it into the computer and then sort of flesh out the ideas and get it going. If you saw my other video where I had the Digitac with it, or Digitac, whichever way you want to say it, I felt like that was a good way to kind of get a little bit more sort of mileage out of it, because you could have the samples on the side, and the two together you could really flesh out a good solid idea to then put into your computer, or sort of take it a little bit further from just using just one box and stuff like that. But we're using the Syntakt today, so let's get cracking. So I'm going to start off by just putting in some simple drums, because I want something to kind of play along with as I'm going. So let's just pull this decay down and let's tune this down. Go down 7 semitones. I think that sounds pretty good. Go to the filter, put a little envelope on it. Maybe go in here a little bit tighter with the decay. Just want something as a backbeat. We've got the clap here. Let's just turn that down in the mix a little bit and filter it, and a little bit of reverb. Take that down just a hair, and then lastly, let's put some hats in there as well. And again, you're going to filter them down. Take the volume down just a hair. Get that reverb going. And then let's go function and amp to go into the reverb page. And then let's just get that decay just for the reverb. And I think we're pretty good there. So let's use this track here. We can push stop, and we'll go over to the engine, and then the first one we're going to go to is the engine for the bits. So this is more aimed at sort of degrading the synth sound. So if I go from a keyboard, you can hear straight away there's a lot of noise. You got the bit reduction, sample rate reduction to really go down. But the thing that I like about using this is we have the simple waveform there. So let's go all the way to 16 on the bit reduction. Sample rate reduction is at 0. And then the balance, we're going to go all the way to the right. So you can hear the noises on the left. We go all the way to the right, and then we have our waveform. So at the moment we got it set to a triangle, but let's hold function and then turn. So we go from sine to triangle to saw, and then we're at a square. We'll go function and then the tuning to go down 1 octave. Probably go down 2, and you're kind of getting that nice bass sort of sound. And for this, I'm going to be making kind of like a SH101 sort of bass sort of sound. So let's go to filter, and then put a little envelope in. I like that. So instead of going, I'm not going to go two bars on this. I'm just going to go a single bar, and we'll just kind of jam in something. And we go over to trig and then function trig to give us quantize, and let's get that. I like that. Now we can kind of shape it a little bit more. Let's take down the volume just a little bit to help it sit in. Go a little bit of overdrive. And then I'm on the filter page, and I'm going to add a little bit more release. And you can hear that tail now. Super simple bass line and a really easy patch, but giving us like a little bit of variation there. We can just start to pan, or we can go the balance a little bit to the left now to add some of that noise in. Open the filter up. You can hear that noise in there if I go all the way to the right, all the rasp, but then pull that decay down, just add a little bit more of the envelope. So when I increase that envelope, it's this envelope that's affecting this filter. Nice and simple to get us going and understanding what's going on with this actual synth engine. So now if we take this same synth line, and then we're going to pitch it up, and we're going to kind of get it into more of a lead sort of area. So let's go function. And then what we can do is we come over here. D5, let's go. And we'll go up to a B5 there. Now we kind of got something sort of more in a lead sort of register. But what we can do, we have this tune here. So I've got it set, if I go function and then turn the dial, it gives us in increments of 0, 7, or an octave, or then 24. But what we can do is we can just detune it a little bit, and kind of gives us that sort of chorusy sound. We'll come across to the amp, pull that down in the mix a little bit. Come across, we're going to mute that kick drum. just a quick way that you can add some more variation when you're doing like a turnaround or something like that. But we've just changed that bass line into a lead line using the same synth engine, just pitching it up and then detuning the two oscillators against each other to kind of add a bit more width and give a bit more character to the sound. So next up, we're going to look at the chords. So let's double click and we come over to the chords. And the chords, I sort of dug into this, and whilst we have a bunch of different options for tuning and it gives you a nice variation on sounds and stuff like that, when it comes to playing the chords, there isn't sort of too much in the way of changing the synth sound. If we come across to the wave shape, you can hear that it gives you different timbres, but essentially it's just giving you only slight variations of that sound. But I think it sounds really good. So what we can do is we'll take out these notes from the last one, and then we'll just put in that'll do. So you can see we have the waveform here. That gives us nice variations all the way. We got some more. Let's open that filter up. All the way through sort of more organy sort of sounds. So one thing that I like to do with this patch is if I play a note, every time I play that, it's giving me relatively almost exactly the same information because it is a digital synth. So what we can do is, we know that if we come along, we got 127 down to 0. So what we can do is kind of go around 68 for that number there. And then if we come across to the LFO and then we go destination and we want waveform, yes, just make sure, yep, wave. And then what we can do is have this go really slow, and then the depth, we'll have it set pretty high to begin with because I want you to be able to hear the sound. And then for the wave shape, let's go triangle. So then what this is essentially going to do is that LFO is going to scroll through all those waveforms. So you can hear that sound changing. And then we go free on the mode. So now it's giving you that sort of change that you would usually hear on more of a analog synth, those slight changes. Whilst it is a lot going on at the moment, we can dial that back. Actually, I liked it when it was up higher. And then we can go to the filter. And we're going to sort of dial in this envelope a little bit. Make sure that there we go. Got some nice reverb going on there. We'll go back to the filter. Let's take that sustain down. we've got a nice variation of that stab by just utilizing the LFO to control those waveforms. So it's effectively scrolling through all of these using the LFO. We don't have to touch it though. Next up, we are going to look at how you can add some more percussive elements into your tracks using one of the engines. And for that, we're going to use the toy engine. So if we double click and we come across to toy, and this is more of like a tonal, like a melodic sort of tonal. We have the impact. You can hear that's obviously to simulate how hard that thing is being hit. We have the form, which kind of changes the sound. Make sure the LFO is set to none. And then, so for this one, I like to use these just little bits, but then you can also add some more decay on there, and then it gets a little bit crazy if you start adding the portamento and the portamento time in there. So let's get cracking, and we'll just add some little bits in there. And so we have our little bit there, but obviously it's taking up a lot of space with just how it sounds. So let's go into the synth engine, turn that decay down. Actually, let's do it from the filter. So now we have a bit more percussive sort of sound. That nice sort of reverb there. If we go function and then filter to get to the delay page, we go function and time. It gives us the in sync time for those. So if we go over, so now we have something sort of cooking up. Let's pull that envelope down a little bit. Now, like we did before, we utilized the LFO to kind of change some different parameters of the synth. We're going to do the same thing for the form and the impact. So we'll go to LFO 1 and we'll go to form. Yep. And if we hit the LFO again, it brings us to the second page. We'll go to impact. And there we go, impact. Yep. Oh. We're going to increase the amount and then slow it way down. And we'll go to free. And you can hear the slight changes in there now. Go back to LFO 1, increase that a little bit. So now if we come across and then we start to look at the trig options and we add the portamento in, you can hear it's like the sliding up between notes. And then if we go to filter, and you can hear those changes in the timbre of the sound as well as the sliding up with the portamento. It's like another way that you can kind of get percussion, but then you can also make it a little bit weird at the same time. So next up, we are going to look at the saw wave. So let's get rid of this information. Go to the LFO, make sure that we're set to none for both. And then we're going to go into the engines and we're going to go to swarm. Now this is going to be a super saw. So if we take this, let's open this up a little. Giving us all of our lovely trancey sounds, but we can use this to kind of create a Reese bass, and I'm going to show you a different way that you can create a Reese bass, but this is a good way. We have this, we can increase that decay there. Just increase the sustain on the amp so we have it consistently going. Now if I go over to the synth, now we have the mix and the detune. So you can hear when the detune's very low, you get that sort of metallic-y sound. When you start to increase the animate is when you get a bit more of that. But then when I've got the animate set fairly high at the moment, and then as I detune, it's really changing that sound. So let's go function, tune down. Dial back that animate a little bit to like 40. And the detune to about 90. Go over to the filter. Pulling down the envelope amount for the filter, and then I've just got this full sustain. We want the portamento on, so one thing we can do is come across to the filter, have a look at some other filter types. Kind of give us a different flavor there. So let's go to tempo, and we're going to just speed that up a little bit. Let's increase that portamento time. Could almost go down another. Good way to get some, stop that. It's a good way to get some quick and easy sort of Reese inspired sort of bass lines. So next up we're going to look at some of the analog synth engines. So we've got a couple down here. So let's have a look at this one, and we've got the dual VCO. Now with this one we can also make a Reese inspired bass line. So as you can see, we've got a couple of things. We have the obviously overdrive, we have the balance between the two oscillators, and then you can see here we have the two VCOs. We have also the detune. So if we go function and then detune up to 0, let's get that. We can go function and tune down, and then same as what I did before, we're going to use the detune to slightly detune the two VCOs. So go trig, turn portamento on and turn it up. Go back to the synth. Go a little bit more detune. A little bit more. A little bit more. So I went minus 20, minus 0.20 to, and I find that this one works a little bit better than the Swarm engine. Now we can come across to the filter. Let's get a nice, got the filter going there. If we go with the classic sort of low pass, get a little bit of reverb on there as well. I find that this one just has a little bit more weight to it from the analog dual VCO engine. Is a nice way to make those sort of Reese basses. If we go back to the dual VCO, it gives us some more options in the terms of ring modulation and FM, and that's where the balance comes into play a lot more. So if we scroll through, and you can see we've got the little R there now. Let's get that in tune and go down one octave. So I'm balanced all the way to the left. And then if I start to detune, if I go down 7, maybe go back up. See, if I go the balance all the way to the other side, the detune is just affecting the pitch. If we get that back under 7, we go back to the other side. We're getting the VCO that is being ring modulated by the other one. So we can change the shape to get a whole slew of different timbres and different sounds from that. And again, if we keep scrolling through and we go to FM, we want to change the balance over to the other side, and you can hear we get a lot of other different sounds. So we go function, and then if you go balance, back it off a little bit, change the oscillator, the VCO shape. And you can hear a little bit of movement goes a long way with those. So just something to keep in mind if you're looking for more sort of flavors outside of the traditional waveforms. If you go into the ring or the FM section on the dual VCO, you're going to get a lot more to play with. But for me, it's been very hit and miss to try and get sounds, like usable sounds out of that. It's more happy accidents. So that is about it for today. Hopefully I've showed you a little bit of what this machine can do. Since I've got it, I've just been digging in a little bit more and seeing what I can get out of it. And at the end of the day, hopefully this has inspired you to create something. And until next time, see you later.